Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Human for Hire, Armies of the Sun, Collateral Damage Included, by T.R. Harris, narrated by Keith Sellon-Wright. Chapter 1. Hey, it seemed like a good idea at the time. The canister was cylindrical, it was solid enough, and it had some good weight to it. Yes, it would make a perfectly good weapon against the raging 10-foot-tall alien beast that was in the process of beating the human to a pulp. The creature was bent over as his 5-foot-long arms pummeled Cain from above. The human was on the ground doing his best to block the incoming punches, using the cylinder as a shield. Surprisingly, for an alien, the strikes had some power behind them. Normally, Adam wasn't concerned about the hits from a non-human, but this asshole was proving to be the exception rather than the rule. Now, Adam gripped the 2-foot-long container and swung it with all his might. The canister struck the creature against the side of his jutting chin, getting his attention. Fierce green eyes glowered at Adam as the thing shifted his jaw back and forth a few times to get it back into alignment. Then he went back to beating the crap out of the human. Out of desperation, Adam cranked up and slammed the metal object into the alien's huge head once again. This time it had more impact, literally, striking the creature across his bulbous nose. The beast roared out in pain and reared back, bringing his hands to his blood-covered face. Hot red liquid rained down on Adam, who ignored the bath and jumped to his feet. He stepped back, sizing up the distance between himself and the now injured beast. Then he cocked the cylinder over his right shoulder as would a major league batter preparing for a pitch. Then he swung for the fences. The contact with the alien's hardened skull came with a pronounced thunk and audible crack of bone under the bloody skin. The creature stood bolt upright as his green eyes crossed before rolling back into their sockets. But he didn't go down, not at first. Instead, he wavered, using his size 30 shoes to keep him from toppling over. Gazing at the towering creature, Adam's eyes moved up the trunk-like legs until they met at the groin. Most prime males in the galaxy carried some version of the family jewels in this region, and Adam was offered a tempting, unguarded target. He took the metal canister and swung it upward this time, and directly into the alien's cojones. Unfortunately, this beast had a different anatomy. Or he had balls of iron. Or Adam had been getting his ass kicked by a female alien. Either way, she didn't react to the hit, ignoring it as she continued clawing at her broken and bloody nose. So be it, Adam thought. If it's the nose that counts to this behemoth, then the nose it shall be. The problem? The nose was almost 10 feet up. Fortunately, the gravity of the planet Draenus was about half that of Earth's. This put the alien's towering head easily within Adam's leaping ability. He crouched down and then jumped into the air, again holding the metal cylinder. But instead of swinging it, this time he placed a hand on the bottom and shoved the container directly into the already shattered nose. The appendage flattened out, even receding a little into the giant's skull. That was all it took. Even the snowshoe's size feet couldn't keep the monster upright. She now slowly tumbled backward, toppling like a felled redwood with a muted thud to the concrete floor. In a gesture of victory, Adam flipped the metal canister into the air, causing it to twirl like a short and thick baton. As it came back down, he fumbled the recovery, and the cylinder clanged on the hard floor and bounced away, the sound echoing off the walls like a series of gunshots before it settled down and rolled to a stop. Embarrassed, Adam picked up the slippery, blood-covered cylinder and made for the exit. He didn't know what was in the container, but it was worth 900,000 energy credits to Starfire Security, the company Adam Cain worked for, and that had been hired to recover the stolen artifact for its rightful owners. The beast on the floor wasn't the thief. That was the work of another dead alien in the building, one of many that Adam had dispatched along his way to the final contest with the hulking monster. The giant was tasked with keeping the canister from Adam. Yeah, that didn't work out so well. As the human leisurely made his way out of the villain's underground bunker and to his waiting starship, Adam had a moment to reflect on another job well done. It only took him a week to locate the enemy lair, gain access, and then find the hidden treasure. Along the way, he'd terminated 9, now 10, aliens of various species. Of course, that was far below his average score, but he wasn't complaining. It was a quick and relatively easy mission. Besides that, Adam was back to 40% commission on company fees after regaining the confidence of his employer, the Jurian Titus Fay Nolan. His commission would be decent. A few months back, Adam had been basically working for free as he paid off his debt to Titus, debt he'd incurred while taking on various side hustles without company approval. The jobs were supposedly off the books, but Titus didn't see it that way. He said they reflected badly on the company. After all, Adam Cain, a.k.a. the Human, was Starfire Security's most celebrated employee, bounty hunter, bodyguard, mercenary extraordinaire, and known from one end of the galaxy to another. As Titus liked to point out, everything Adam did was as a representative of the company. Adam took exception to that, but Titus signed his paychecks. And a check for 360,000 credits would be waiting for him once he got back to Teleran and delivered the mystery container to his stodgy, green-skinned boss. That was a nice chunk of change for a week's work. A week, plus the 4 weeks of combined travel time to and from the planet Draenus. That's what Adam hated the most about space travel, how damn long it took. He was wasting his reborn life away, twiddling his thumbs during sometimes month-long transits. Fortunately, Titus didn't take a lot of jobs too far out from Teleran. Still, it was an incredible waste of time, not to mention boring as hell. But that was the life of an interstellar bounty hunter / mercenary / hired muscle. And the Human was the best there was at the game. Once back on Teleran, Adam cheerfully bounded into Titus's office with the recovered cylinder and plopped down in a chair across from his boss's desk. Titus's light green skin turned a shade paler as his golden eyes locked on the cylinder and widened to the size of ping-pong balls. "What? Why did you bring that in here?" Titus exclaimed, partially climbing up the back of his chair to get as far away from Adam as he could. Adam frowned. "Because we were paid to recover it, that's why. What did you expect me to do with it?" "Leave it with the containment crew downstairs, that's what." Adam rolled the metal container over in his hands, looking for the 100th time at the cryptic control panel embedded in the surface. "So what's in it?" he asked, his fingers running nonchalantly over the keypad. "What's in it?" Titus gasped. "Just one of the most deadly flesh-eating aerosol chemicals in the galaxy. A prototype biological weapon of incalculable destructive potential." "You didn't shake it, did you?" Titus's voice trembled with fear. It was Adam's turn for his eyes to bulge out of their sockets. "A flesh-eating chemical? Well, thanks for telling me, asshole. That would have been nice to know before I went looking for the thing. You didn't need to know what was in it. Just be lucky the container didn't rupture. Otherwise, your insides would have been your outsides." Adam's heart pounded as he recalled using the cylinder as a weapon, but he did know something Titus didn't. The container was virtually unbreakable. I'm glad you finally got around to telling me how dangerous this thing is. Adam stood and took a step toward the door. But it's not my problem anymore. It's yours. Adam then tossed the container to Titus, the metal cylinder spinning through the air as if in slow motion. As expected, the 7-foot-tall alien fumbled the catch, his arms flailing wildly until he was able to gain control of the container and pull it securely to his heaving chest. Adam winked at his alien boss. "Nice catch, dickhead. I'll expect the recovery fee deposited into my account ASAP." The human then left the office, closing the door behind him, a smirk on his face. "You asshole, Adam Cain," came Titus's thunderous rejoinder. It was heard throughout the office, much to Adam's satisfaction and fortifying his reputation as a rebel. One had to be constantly aware of branding. It helped when it came time to negotiate commission splits. Chapter 2. Adam Cain had a new best buddy. His name was Vincent, and he was a 6.5-foot tall, pale-skinned alien with a 12-foot-long tongue that he used quite effectively as a weapon. Besides that, he looked remarkably humanoid, which helped with Adam's acceptance of him. That, plus the fact that Vincent had saved Adam's life during one of his more recent side jobs. That mission had turned out to be an impromptu audition for Vincent's job at Starfire Security. Now, Vincent was an up-and-coming star on the roster at the company, having already completed 3 successful missions, and with hardly any collateral damage to speak of. A fact Titus pointed out to Adam every time Vincent's name came up. Having an operative of Vincent's capabilities took some of the pressure off Adam to always be the go-to guy when the tough jobs were on the line. It's not that Adam didn't want the difficult jobs, he did. They paid well and kept him from getting bored. It's just that Adam was financially solvent at the time and wanted to spend more time enjoying his bounty and not constantly beating on aliens. Bottom line, Adam Cain needed a break. He needed a vacation. And that's when the invitation arrived. The invitation came through formal channels and was directed exclusively to Titus as the CEO of Starfire. An invitation to the recoronation ceremony for the Speaker of the Formilian people, Arieel Bol. Titus knew Arieel well and would be welcomed on the planet as a VIP. The adventures the pair had shared throughout the years as sporadic members of Adam's team of renegades and periodic heroes would guarantee that. When Vincent learned of the invitation, he begged to go along. He'd never been to Formil and was giddy at the prospect of seeing the famous planet in person. Titus agreed and confirmed with the coronation organizers that he would be coming, and with 2 guests. Naturally, Titus assumed Adam would want to attend. Adam also knew Arieel, and in the biblical sense of the word. Arieel was Adam's former lover and the mother of his interspecies daughter, Lila. They had a long and storied past together going back decades and taking up much of what Adam referred to as his Human Chronicles years. He even named his latest starship after her. Adam hadn't spoken to her since his cloning. In fact, he wasn't even sure if she knew about it. But just the mention of her name now awakened certain lost desires in the human. Arieel was part of his past life, and he was conflicted in his emotions for her. Arieel Bol was often referred to as the most beautiful prime female in the galaxy, which seemed strange when the galaxy was populated with a myriad of creatures of every shape, size, and description. But Adam knew why Ariel's appeal was so universal. Although she was a truly ravishing creature in her own right, much of her appeal was based on the Formilians' unusually strong pheromones, which made the race sexually attractive, not only to other Formilians but to alien species as well. This particular trait of the Formilians was by design, having been programmed into their ancient DNA by the mysterious Eris, the master race who seeded advanced life throughout the galaxy 3 billion years ago. They infused the amoeba-like ancestors of modern Formilians with this unusual trait as part of their grand plan to create a natural-born immortal being. The human race was also part of the Eris's long-term strategy, which is the reason the impossible happened when sex between aliens Adam Cain and Arieel Bol resulted in the birth of Lila, an immortal, mutant genius of near unlimited power. But that's another story. Arieel was the latest in a line of hereditary religious leaders on the planet Formil who had the seemingly magical ability to communicate with the dual Formilian gods of Mislin and Sufor, representing the electromagnetic opposites of positive and negative energy. In this capacity, she was able to manipulate electricity at will, making her, along with all the speakers before her, into demigods, worshipped and held in awe by the adoring populace. But that all came to a tragic end when it was discovered that the speakers controlled the power of the gods through subcutaneous electronic implants called gifts. These devices linked their brains with Formilian-designed electronic controls, units that were found in just about every electrical device operating in the galaxy. This meant anyone with a gift could control the electronics around them, making it seem as though they had this power through magical or divine providence. For a long while, even Adam had a gift, something he called an artificial telepathy device, an ATD, because it gave him the ability to mentally communicate with other ATD wearers. Once the people of Formil learned that the speaker's powers came from artificial means rather than divine decree, much of the luster of the position was lost. This caused Arieel to lose her position as the supreme leader of the planet. But after 2,000 years of worshipping the speakers, it wasn't easy to dismiss the legacy offhand. Arieel retained a portion of her power and esteem, but now she shared governance with a council of often jealous and petty politicians. That was until the latest Clin attack on the Milky Way. With the expansion and the Union gone, planets were resorting to their more basic identities, reviving past traditions and culture, seeking to reconnect with their lost heritage. There was a resurgence of the cult of the speaker, even though now it was posited that the knowledge to build the gifts came to the Formilians by way of divine intervention. It was acknowledged that temple scientists made the devices and implanted them within the speakers, but their hands and minds were guided by the will of the gods. Or so the story went. This resurgence in belief had returned Arieel to the pinnacle of Formilian power and influence. And to make the return official, there was to be a recoronation ceremony on Formil within the coming month. Titus was invited, and Adam and Vincent would tag along as his +2. For Adam's part, he wanted to go just so he could boast a little about how he and the most beautiful prime female in the galaxy had once been an item. It would prove to the other males within his newer circle of friends what a stud he was. That, and other obvious reasons. Chapter 3. Adam dreaded the 2-week-long journey to Formil, and it turned out pretty much as he expected. Titus and Vincent came with him in the Arieel, which gave the Jurian plenty of time to answer Vincent's probing questions about Adam and the adventures the pair had shared in the past, and how they both came to know Arieel Bol. Since Adam's cloned rebirth, he found moments like these extremely uncomfortable. Here he was, a now 20-something-year-old, having stories told of him going back nearly 40 years. It defied logic, and often the stories seemed as if they were about another person other than Adam. But the memories were there, even if to him he sometimes questioned their veracity. Could they really be about him? Could he have really done as much as the legends say, and been involved in that many crucial moments in the history of the galaxy? To Adam it seemed more like trouble followed him around from star system to star system, from universe to universe, rather than him being on some heroic 40-year quest, a struggle against good versus evil, as the stories said. And now, just thinking about his past life only made him tired. As he listened to Titus ramble on about one adventure after another, Adam wondered if he'd changed with the cloning. Was he the same heroic person as the legend suggests? Or had he grown less adventuresome and more pragmatic in his second life? Adam thought so, being more concerned these days about his individual welfare than about saving the universe. Perhaps he'd found that the only person who really mattered was good old numero uno, himself. That's why Adam stuck with Titus in Starfire security. At various times in the last 4 years, he had plenty of money to retire and live out a comfortable life on some distant planet where no one knew him. He'd been tempted, but never pulled the trigger. Deep down inside, he knew why. Throughout the years, Adam had gained the confidence that he could always make more money, even if he lost it all, which he'd recently done several times over. Starfire security gave him the opportunity to be reckless with his wealth. Another mission and another pile of body bags, and he would be solvent again. Besides, with his newfound youth and vitality, Adam was too young to retire. He still craved the challenge and the sense of adventure that came with traveling the space lanes in a reality that was once only the realm of science fiction, even if that stark reality slapped him in the face every waking minute, as well as haunted his dreams. And listening to the two aliens discuss Adam's past life gave him a new perspective, that of a spectator rather than the main character. Adam often wondered what his life would be like if he hadn't died and then been cloned. He would be in his 60s now, and with a body worn weary by decades of physical and mental abuse. Retirement would be the logical path, just as his friends Sherry Valentine and Riyadh Tarazi had chosen to pursue. They were now happily back on Earth, having found some sort of peace with the constant struggle for anonymity that was almost impossible to find on the home world. They were famous too, but even they would admit that their fame paled in the light of Adam's notoriety. He was the famous/infamous Adam Cain, and arguably the most well-known human in history, if not on Earth, then certainly throughout the Milky Way. But he was also a solitary person, and the thought of constant recognition, of living out his years with absolutely no privacy, chilled him to the bone. And that's why he remained in the wilds of the galaxy rather than returned to Earth with Sherry and Riyadh. Besides, he was different now. 30 years different. Try explaining that during every TV interview or passing conversation. It would be more convenient simply to wear a sandwich board that read, "Yes, I was cloned, now leave me alone." Adam Cain wasn't afraid of too many things, but constant prying into his private life was right up there in the top 3. Vincent now turned to Adam. He flicked out his impossibly long tongue and used it to straighten a stray lock of blonde hair on his alien head. "I understand now why you go simply by the human. Of course I had heard of Adam Cain. I was even slightly in awe when I learned your true identity when we were on Nephar. But I had no idea how involved you have been in galactic affairs. I venture to say you have been the catalyst for many of the events that have altered the galaxy, making it what it is today." "Hey, don't blame me for that," Adam said in his defense, and he wasn't being facetious. "The galaxy has been a dumpster fire for a very long time. All I tried to do was keep it from getting out of control. Besides, Titus is only telling things from his perspective. He only knows bits and pieces." "Then please tell me your side of the story. I would be honored to know." Adam shook his head. "Not now. Maybe never. As you've just learned, I had another life before this one. I'd just as soon let it rest in peace. I got a do-over, and I want to make the most of it." "A do-over? Oh, very clever," Vincent said with a smile. And then his smile flipped to a frown. "I suppose this Arieel Bol knows of your transformation? If not, then it could come as a shock." Titus now grimaced. "I believe you have touched a nerve within our friend. If I am correct, Adam has not spoken with Arieel since the end of the Klin invasion. She must assume he returned to Earth with the others." "Is that true?" Vincent asked. "But she is the birth mother of your offspring. Why would you not communicate with her?" "I felt it best to cut all ties. With Lila and Tantor gone to who knows where, Arieel and I don't have much in common anymore. Besides, she's the leader of a planet and a religion. She doesn't need me as a distraction." "So why now? Why are you returning to see her?" Adam grimaced and shrugged. "Nostalgia, I guess. We'll see if this was a good idea or not once we land." "Will she even recognize you?" Adam laughed. "Another good question. I think so. I met her when I was around 39. She has the younger Adam Cain in her memory. It may not be that much of a shock." "And he is hoping to ignite some of the lost passion between the two of them," Titus said, poking Vincent in the shoulder. "I must say, I do not blame him." Vincent wrinkled his nose. "And that is another point of contention, not only for Adam, but now for you too, Titus, a Jurian. I see images of Arieel Bol, but I must say I do not find her attractive, not by Sasnorian standards. I understand that should be the normal reaction when considering the sexuality of various so-called aliens. Why do the Formilians hold such esteem among other races? It is not logical." Titus and Adam looked at each other knowingly. "Give it time," Adam said with a grin. "You have to be in their presence to receive a full dose of their pheromones. After that, you'll be just as enamored with them as the rest of us." "So it is a drug-induced spell they cast on others?" Vincent said with disgust. "Trust me, my friends, I will not so easily succumb to such deception. Besides, they are aliens. It would turn my stomach to imagine being intimate with one." "Would you like to put some credits on that?" Titus asked. "Perhaps half your next bounty fee?" Adam watched Vincent's steely eyes as he considered the offer. He was a gambler, having once lost a starship in a card game. But now he shook his head. "I know how strict you are with your recovery fees, Titus. You would only risk them on a sure bet. Therefore I will pass on your offer." Titus wrinkled his face. "Damn it! I already had the credits spent." "But that was a wise choice, Vincent, and only supports my belief that you are a cautious and contemplative agent who will serve Starfire well for many years to come. You do not take foolish risks." Titus looked at Adam. "Unlike some people we know." The rest of the journey was spent much like this, with Titus later reciting tales of his own long and exciting past, first growing up within the Jurian authority, and then later his rebellion to become one of the few Jurians to ever leave and...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?